In the first 6 weeks of his second term, Donald Trump and Republicans have sought to upend many foreign and domestic policies which have guided American society since World War II. During his address to Congress a short time from now, President Trump is expected to tout those new policies, often coming by executive orders, increasingly being challenged in lawsuits. Reporter Jay O'Brien digests it all tonight in our Prime Focus.
This was just a month and a half ago. At inaugural festivities moved inside because of the January cold. The first images of President Donald Trump in the first hours of his second term, signing a flurry of executive orders.
That's a big one.
If you thought it's been longer than just 6 weeks, you could be forgiven. Time in President Trump's second term has seemed to race by thanks to a daily deluge of headlines, many shaking the American political fabric to its core.
So this is January 6th. These are the hostages.
One of those first major moments centering on that violent chapter in the final days of Trump's last term, the January 6th Capitol attack. Trump granted sweeping pardons and commutations for nearly 1,600 defendants charged in connection with the riot, including violent offenders and those convicted of seditious conspiracy, like Oath Keepers founder Stewart Rhodes. What's your message to President Trump again, Mr. Rhodes?
Just thank you.
Republicans largely defended the move.
But what about those who assaulted police officers and then were pardoned by the president?
I haven't seen it. I haven't gotten to the details.
But there are those pardons that exist.
Starting in the early hours of this administration, Trump signing more than 70 executive orders so far, taking a sledgehammer to federal diversity, equity, and inclusion policies, scrubbing DEI language from federal websites, even leading to the cancellation of some Black History Month events. Another order threatening federal funding for care for transgender youth. And another seeking to end birthright citizenship. Many of those moves now tied up in litigation and put on hold by judges. The administration also moving swiftly to fulfill the president's campaign promise of mass deportations, pledging to ramp up ICE arrests, deploying troops to the southern border, sending more migrants to be housed at Guantanamo Bay, and deporting thousands of others, and pushing hard on another signature campaign pledge, sweeping trade tariffs.
We may have short-term some little pain, and people understand that, but long-term, the United States has been ripped off by virtually every country in the world.
The president threatening the country's two biggest trading partners, Canada and Mexico, with 25% tariffs because of what he says are lax border and drug policies. On the morning of tonight's joint address to Congress, those tariffs snapping into place, the stock market plunging. And another signature Trump proposal still generating headlines came after this surprise moment at a news conference with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. President Trump pitching a plan for the U.S. to own Gaza, decimated by the brutal Israel-Hamas war.
I don't want to be cute. I don't want to be a wise guy, but the Riviera of the Middle East, this could be something that could be so bad. This could be so magnificent.
The moment causing concern reverberating across the Middle East. Trump promising no U.S. troops on the ground. But taking center stage in these first few weeks of White House drama is billionaire Elon Musk, at the helm of the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, orchestrating the firing of thousands of federal workers and an overhaul of the U.S. government. The backlash swift.
Save federal workers!
Federal workers protesting in D.C. and across the country.
Tyranny is rising in the White House.
And Republican lawmakers facing tough questions at home in their districts.
We are all freaking pissed off about this. You're going to hear it and feel it.
Demonstrators, including Democratic members of Congress, trying to push their way into federal office buildings for answers.
We're members of Congress.
Musk, even more than Trump, considered by many opponents the architect of this governmental chaos.
Is this what you voted for? Is this what you really want? Some unelected bajillionaire coming in and deciding to cut things he had never heard of until yesterday.
Elon Musk doesn't even know my job exists, right? I'm a public servant, and I do this job because I love it.
Anybody unhappy with Elon?
In a meeting last week,
Throw him out of here. Is anybody unhappy?
Trump and his cabinet applauding the world's richest man, even as some federal departments privately expressed concern with how fast DOJ is moving to gut the government. Through it all, Republicans not wavering, asserting Trump is in charge, not Musk.
But what makes you so sure he's not calling the shots now? Republicans won the election. President
Trump won the election. He doesn't have any authority to. I mean, maybe the
he's
president.
Framing it as if he does.
Well, of course, sure. I mean, but you know, that's a little form of self-promotion.
The president notching some key victories, getting every member of his hand-picked cabinet confirmed, except former Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz, briefly tapped for Attorney General. But a handful of Republican senators defecting on key votes.
And the nomination is confirmed.
Secretary of Defense nominee Pete Hegseth needing a last-minute tie-breaking vote from Vice President J.D. Vance to push his nomination across the finish line.
So help me God.
Other controversial choices like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. for Health and Human Services and Tulsi Gabbard for Director of National Intelligence, all confirmed, largely along party lines. Trump's cabinet now vowing overhauls to key systems like the government's health infrastructure, Justice Department, and relations between the U.S. and the rest of the world, on critical issues like the war in Ukraine, as that country's future hangs in the balance and the president promises a peace deal. Tensions boiling over last week on camera in the Oval Office between Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, a wartime leader that Trump has called a dictator.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. But right now, you don't. Yeah, you're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people.
In the aftermath of that Oval Office shouting match, Trump with this observation.
This is going to be great television, I will say that.
So much of these first few chaotic weeks playing out before those blinding lights of the cameras. And on one of his biggest stages yet, Trump promising to tell it like it is in tonight's joint address. His second-term saga still in its first act. And it's anyone's guess what happens next.
We will soon see. Our thanks to Jay O'Brien for that.